This is the S22 Ultra vs iPhone 14 Pro Max Deep Dive Speed Test. And don't forget to check out the video description and pinned comment if you want to see everything I did to make this as fair of a test as possible. Let's start with the app test. First things first, we need to make sure there are no apps open in the background. And there aren't, so we are good to start the test. So as you can tell by now, there's a counter at the top which keeps track of how many apps each phone opens faster, and I'll be watching the replay frame by frame to make sure this is as accurate of a test as possible. If the phones open apps within about 1/8 of a second to each other, then neither phone will get a point because that could just be the difference in time between me tapping one screen versus the other. It looks like the iPhone's taking the lead right off the start. Let's see if it can keep that lead till the end. For the Excel app, the search bar on the iPhone finished loading just one frame ahead of the S22 Ultra finishing its check for recent workbooks. Since that's just 1/30th of a second, neither phone gets a point. And if you think I got any of these points wrong, you can slow the YouTube video down by clicking or tapping the settings gear on the video. That'll let you slow it down to 1/4 the speed. Ooh, the S22 Ultra has almost caught up to the iPhone. Let me know which one you think is going to take the win in the comments below. Now it's time for the RAM test. We're just going to go backwards through the apps to see how many are still open. There are tallies at the top again to keep track of how many reloads each phone has. Obviously, the less reloads, the better. It looks like Plex just refreshes on the S22 Ultra, but it isn't a reload since we didn't see the Plex logo splash screen. Let me know in the comments below if you think refreshes should count in these tests. We'll talk about the results of this test in a minute, but first I want to talk about how these perform within applications for day-to-day use. Let's start with gaming. The first game I tried was Asphalt 9, and the first thing I noticed is that the pill on the iPhone prevents you from opening the menu on the left side. To fix this, you can flip the phone over, but then you'll be cutting off a bit of the text. Since I don't use this menu, I just flip the phone back over. In terms of gameplay, I saw almost no difference in performance between these two phones. The graphics looked incredible on both, and both maintained a high frame rate with no frame drops as far as I could see. After about 20 minutes of playing, both phones started to get warm, but not uncomfortably warm. And even at the highest temperatures, I still didn't see any frame drops or loss in game quality. The most notable difference between the two came down to brightness and color quality. While the iPhone could get noticeably brighter than the S22 Ultra, the S22 Ultra's colors looked more vibrant compared to the colors on the iPhone. This difference in color became even more apparent when I switched to PUBG. But before jumping into the game, I went to the settings and enabled Ultra HD graphics, which required an extra download to get much better graphics. And I also scrolled down and enabled the ultra frame rate on both devices to make sure I was getting the maximum frame rate. Now by default, the iPhone was already set to ultra, but on the S22 Ultra, I had to manually adjust it to ultra. Having both these settings set to ultra is really going to push both these devices to their limits. So right on the main screen of the game, you can already see that the colors look more vibrant on the S22 Ultra and a bit washed out on the iPhone. But if I rotate my character around, the frame rates look great on both phones. Jumping into a game, we can really see the difference in color. The S22 Ultra is just notably more vibrant than the iPhone 14 Pro Max. That's not to say the iPhone's colors are bad, they just don't pop quite as well as the colors on the S22 Ultra. In terms of temperatures, it was the same deal here. Both got warm, but not uncomfortable, and the performance didn't drop on either device. Now let's talk about video editing. This is where the iPhone has dominated Samsung phones for years. For this test, I'm using Adobe Rush with 4K 30 frame per second footage directly from my Panasonic GH5S, and I have the same color effect applied on both phones. This has to be the most surprising test I've seen. For the first time ever, Samsung's phone is faster at exporting a video than the iPhone. I thought something was wrong with the test, so I ran it again and got the same results. Then I ran it with 4K 60 frame per second footage filmed with the S22 Ultra, and the S22 Ultra won by an even larger margin. Then I tried with a 4K 30 frame per second high efficiency video codec video filmed with the iPhone 14 Pro Max, and finally, the iPhone took a pretty commanding win. To round this test out, I tried exporting some 1080p videos and even down converting 4K videos to 1080p, and here's where the iPhone really shined and crushed the S22 Ultra in the export speeds. So which device is the fastest? Well, it depends on what you're doing. The iPhone tends to open more apps a bit faster than the S22 Ultra, but as usual, it's not a massive difference, so this part shouldn't be a deciding factor between the two phones. And both phones kept almost every app loaded in RAM, so unless you open more than 28 apps every single day, you probably won't notice a difference between these two phones. In terms of gaming, both are very closely matched from a detail and frame rate perspective. The iPhone will give you a brighter image, but the S22 Ultra's colors are more vibrant, the punch hole doesn't get in the way nearly as much as the pill does, and the much smaller side bezels makes the S22 Ultra a more appealing phone to game on for me personally. And lastly, if you're going to be doing a lot of video editing on your phone, while Samsung has finally caught up in 4K editing, the iPhone is still notably faster for 1080p and 4K video recorded with the high efficiency video codec, which, fun fact, is the default codec when you film in 4K on the iPhone 14 Pro Max. So after all this testing, I can confidently say that speed should not be a determining factor on which phone you should buy. Instead, you should take a look at all the features each phone has to offer. And to do that, you can check out this playlist over here to see the top 80 features on the S22 Ultra, which cover the camera, S Pen, and general features in 3 separate videos. And be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss similar videos coming up soon for the iPhone 14 Pro Max. That's it for this tech episode. God bless guys, and I'll catch you in the next one.